We all know what's just happened with Russia invading Ukraine, but how are the Russians dealing with this, and what do the Russian people feel about what their leader is doing, Vladimir Putin? There's an article that appeared in Daily Mail, and this article pretty much lays out exactly the problem that you have somebody who's acting like a tyrant and a dictator and dragging his people into a war that they don't want. This was by Lauren Lewis for Mail Online at 4:34 p.m. UTC on February 24th, 2022, which states that over 150 Russian officials signed letter condemning invasion of Ukraine. Over 150 municipal officials have signed open letter condemning Vladimir Putin. Warned invasion was an unprecedented atrocity and there was no justification. Russia today invaded Ukraine in a series of attacks from the south, north, and east. More than 150 senior Russian officials have signed an open letter condemning Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine as an unprecedented atrocity and warning of catastrophic consequences. The deputies said that they were convinced Russian citizens do not back the war and blamed Putin personally for ordering troops into Ukraine in an attack for which there is no and cannot be justification. Putin, in the early hours of today, gave the order to attack, delivering an extraordinary address to the Russian nation in which he declared the special military operation to demilitarize and denazify Ukraine in what amounted to be an outright declaration of war. Missiles and bombs rained from the sky, tanks rolled across the border, troops parachuted down on eastern regions, and explosions were seen across the country in the early hours and into the morning. The letter urged Russians not to participate in the aggression and called on citizens to speak out against the invasion because only massive popular condemnation can stop this war. Among the letter's signatories were Moscow deputies Elena Ruskakova, Maxim Gonglovsky, Andrei Morev, Elena Kotlenchenko, and Elena Filina, as well as St. Petersburg officials David Kuvayev and Polina Sizova, and Veliki Novgorod deputy Anna Cherekabanova. It was a surprising step for Russian officials to speak out against Putin, who usually holds an iron grip on dissent, and last week televised a meeting with Moscow's top security chiefs in which they appeared to be railroaded into backing his plans to invade Ukraine. The letter, which described the signatories as those elected by the people, said they unreservedly condemn the attack of the Russian army on Ukraine. This is an unprecedented atrocity for which there is no and cannot be justification. The decision to attack was made personally by Russian President Vladimir Putin. We are convinced that the citizens of Russia did not give him such a mandate. The letter warned of catastrophic consequences. Thousands of people will die, be injured and maimed. Cities dear to many Russians will be destroyed. It said Russia would face the condemnation of the world community, resulting in isolation, rising prices, and poverty. Hopes for a good life in Russia are crumbling before our eyes, the letter added. We urge you not to participate in the aggression and not to approve of it. Please don't be silent. Only massive popular condemnation could stop the war. It comes after heartbreaking images emerged from Ukraine showing bloodied civilians staggering through the streets of towns in the east of the country following Russian shelling in the early hours of today. Other civilians were also injured, and some others were believed to have died, though numbers of those hurt were not yet confirmed. The Russian Defense Ministry said it was not targeting cities, but using precision weapons, and claimed that there is no threat to civilian population. Yet Luhansk, Sumy, Kharkiv, and Chernihiv in the east of Ukraine all reported coming under attack, with blasts also reported in the west. In Zhytomyr and Lviv, close to the border with Poland. Meanwhile, pro-Russian rebel forces pushed out from the occupied Donbass region, capturing 2 villages, and appalling video from Uman, Cherkasy region and central Ukraine showed the moment a shell hit a cyclist riding by. And then they showed a wounded woman that was in Kharkiv in Ukraine after airstrikes hit an apartment complex. And here's her picture. I don't know if you can see this. So it is affecting civilians that have done nothing. This is an unprecedented attack against innocents. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, in an address to the nation on Thursday morning, said the history of Ukraine has now changed forever and that Russia has embarked on a path of evil, comparing the Russian attack to Hitler's forces in World War II. And of course, Hitler invaded Ukraine, in case you did not know that history. But he vowed to fight back, saying the military has already inflicted serious losses on Russia. He called on all Ukrainian citizens willing to defend their homeland to step forward, saying guns will be issued to everyone who wants one. He also asked for civilians to give blood to help wounded troops, and he asked world leaders to impose the harshest sanctions possible on Putin. Underlining the gravity of the moment, Ukrainian Interior Minister and Advisor Anton Heroshenko said, starting today, the world has a new geopolitical reality. Either Ukraine and the world will stop the new Hitler now, or there will be a third world war. Western leaders lined up to condemn Russia's actions in the early hours, with security councils convened the world over to mount a response. Heavy sanctions are expected to follow, along with more shipments of military equipment to Ukraine, provided they can find a route in. Now, of course, President Biden just put some harsh sanctions on Russia today, and as well as saying that we will be working with the NATO troops of the G7. So this says, but NATO and the U.S. have made it clear that no troops will be sent, leaving Ukraine's military far the inferior of Russia to hold off the assault alone. Few expect it to emerge victorious from what is almost certain to be a prolonged, bloody, vicious war. So there you have one man that's creating all of this chaos and already killing innocent people for no reason. And Vladimir Putin didn't have to have this on his agenda. You know, he could just live and let live. And why doesn't he focus on the positive things in Russian life that, you know, look at Baryshnikov, one of the best dancers there ever was. And why not focus on the arts of Russia and let that spread into the world instead of being and becoming a tyrant? And you're going to go down in history as a moronic tyrant if you do this thing. So it doesn't make you look good in the history of the world. So right there in that important article, I wanted you to see that these 150 senior Russian officials have signed this open letter condemning Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine, as well as telling the people, the citizens who are against it, not to participate in the fighting against Ukraine. So you have innocent Russians that are against this, And they don't want to go to war with Ukraine. They don't want to fight Ukraine. And probably there's some soldiers that are being forced to fight against Ukraine that don't want to do it, but, you know, they are in the military and so they follow the leader. So these leaders just think, you know, they're all powerful. And I don't know. There's a lot involved in this. There's an attempt at creating the global government and the New World Order. And I truly believe that they're shutting down these pipelines on purpose so that, you know, then raising the prices of the gas so that we can eliminate the fuel-efficient cars. And, you know, we're going to all go to plugging our cars into, you know, a socket or something and hoping that the electricity grid doesn't go down and then we won't be able to drive, you know, and, you know, doing away with the coal and every source of energy they're messing with and shutting down the pipelines. So all of this is just a twisted attempt to control the world and to gain more power. And this is exactly where Hitler started out, invading Ukraine. So here we are again, and the Russians in Russia, including this 150 senior Russian officials, are condemning this action of Vladimir Putin. And so are the Russian people. So when you hear that all-encompassing phrase, the Russians are invading Ukraine, don't buy the lie that all the Russians are for this invasion, because they're not. Many of them will not participate and do not want to have a thing to do with it. And they're condemning it. So I just happened to run across this right before I was going to shut this down, that The Guardian reported in World News that thousands join anti-war protests in Russia after Vladimir Putin's Ukraine invasion took place. Police make more than 1,300 arrests as protesters in Russia take to the streets in cities across the country. And this was reported February 24, 2022. Vladimir Putin has said there is broad public support for the invasion of Ukraine and that he announced just before dawn on Thursday morning. But by evening, thousands of people in cities across Russia had defied police threats to take to central squares and protest against the military campaign. Police had made at least 1,702 arrests in 53 Russian cities as of Thursday evening, according to the OVD Info Monitor, as they cracked down on the unsanctioned protests. Most of the arrests were made in Moscow and St. Petersburg, where the crowds were largest. The protesters chanted, "No to war," as they exchanged shocked reactions to the attack on Ukraine. In Moscow, Alexander Belov said he thought that Putin had lost his mind. "I thought that we would never see a war like this in the 21st century," said Belov, who arrived early at Moscow's Pushkinskaya Square to find it surrounded by police vans. "It turns out we live in the Middle Ages." The mood in Moscow was dark and somber hours after Putin had announced that he was launching a broad military offensive targeting Ukraine. "I am embarrassed for my country. To be honest with you, I am speechless. War is always scary. We don't want this," said Nikita Golubev, a 30-year-old teacher. "Why are we doing this?" His anger and hopelessness were shared by many commuting to work down Central Arbat Street. At the Ukrainian Culture Center just down the road, the mood was even grimmer. The Ukrainian minister said the center, which aims to promote the language, traditions, and identity of a country Vladimir Putin denied the legitimacy of as a modern state in his speech on Monday, would be shut for the coming period. "We are being bombed as we speak. Of course we are closed." Jesus, what is happening? The administrator, who did not want to give his name, shouted. There were already signs that Russians were uncomfortable with Putin's initial decisions to recognize the two self-proclaimed republics in Donbass. On Tuesday, Yuri Dut of Russia's most popular media personality said he did not vote for this regime and its need for an empire. On Tuesday, Yuri Dut, one of Russia's most popular media personalities, said he did not vote for this regime and its need for an empire, and felt ashamed in a post that received almost 1 million likes in 24 hours. A fresh poll by the independent Levada Center released on Thursday showed that only 45% of Russians stood in favor of the recognition move that preceded Thursday morning's dramatic events. I didn't think Putin would be willing to go all the way. How can we bomb Ukraine? Our countries have their disagreements, but this is not a way to solve them, said Muscovite Ksenia. But outcries of anger were not only felt on the streets of Moscow, where The Guardian did not encounter support for the military assault. Russia's cultural and sporting elite, usually firmly behind Putin and often called upon by the president during election campaigns to gather popular support, also expressed their deep worries about Russia's invasion. Valery Mlodzy, arguably the country's most beloved singer, posted an emotional video in which he begged Russia to stop the war. Today, something happened that should have never happened. History will be the judge of these events, but today, I beg you, please stop the war. Likewise, Russian football international Fyodor Zmolov posted on his Instagram channel, "No to war." U.S. intelligence has for months warned that Russia would seek to fabricate a major pretext before launching an invasion of Ukraine. In the end, no major false flag came, and experts now believe that Putin decided to act without gathering the backing of his own electorate. Putin seems totally indifferent to approval on the street. He's acting not like a politician in need of public support, but like a figure from national history books who cares only about the approval of future historians and readers, tweeted Alexander Bonov, a political analyst at the Carnegie Moscow Center. The Russian leader looked to have also surprised some of Russia's most prominent oligarchs who saw their wealth tumble as the country's financial markets collapsed. Just on Monday, after Putin recognized the independence of the two Donbass territories, Oleg Deripaska, a Kremlin-friendly oligarch who once said that he does not separate himself from the Russian state, exclaimed on his Telegram channel that war had been averted. He has since deleted the post. On Russian state television, the invasion was framed as a defensive mission aimed at preserving Russian lives. What's the point of a major first strike? However strange or cynical it sounds, it's actually humane because it allows everyone around to prevent a large massacre. By immobilizing Ukraine, life is being preserved, said pundit Vladislav Shurgin on the Channel 1 program, Vernya Pokatset. Some risked arrest on Thursday evening in Russia in order to voice their opposition to the invasion. Zargol Rinchinskov of Buryatia arrived on the square in a jacket with the inscription "No to War." If he held up a sign, he said he would be arrested. Everyone is scared, he said. They know if they say something bad, then they'll be put in jail. So people pretend they don't notice we have started a war, so they don't have to speak up against it or about it. For Ukrainians, public messages of opposition to war will come too late. The country has said that at least 40 soldiers have already been killed and many more civilians injured, as it is threatened with being overrun by a much larger military force. Yet, sensing that a genuine large-scale pushback against war might be Ukraine's best bet, Volodymyr Zelensky, Ukraine's president, on Thursday morning urged Russians to speak up. If the Russian authorities don't want to sit down with us to discuss peace, maybe they will sit down with you. That was published in The Guardian, telling you that the Russians don't want what Putin is doing. He's doing his own thing with his own elevated ego and power. And they have taken the Chernobyl zone, of course, that we've heard, which raises fears of an ecological disaster. So the Russian forces have taken the Chernobyl zone, and they were saying that there was no immediate way to confirm what Russian forces were doing in the zone, located about 80 miles north of Kiev and 12 miles from the border with Belarus. Russia massed forces in Belarus in the weeks leading up to Thursday's attack on Ukraine. A Ukrainian Interior Minister advisor, Anton Gerevchenko, said Russian forces arriving from Belarus battled Ukrainian National Guardsmen who were fighting hard to protect storage facilities for unsafe nuclear reactive waste. His account could not immediately be confirmed. If artillery hits the facilities, radioactive nuclear dust can be spread over the territory of Ukraine, Belarus, and European Union countries, he warned. So this could be a major disastrous effect. In April 1986, core explosions and fires broke out at the Chernobyl plant, then under the control of the Soviet Union. 2 workers died from the explosions. Large quantities of radioactive material contaminated the surrounding land, and a nearby city was evacuated. Vast swaths of Europe were affected, and a radioactive cloud spread as far away as Norway. So this is a very dangerous nuclear threat in a lot of ways because they have taken control of this zone. The Russian people don't want it. The 150 high-up Russian authorities do not want it and sent the letter to Putin condemning his actions. Where is all of this going to lead? And what's interesting about this is, for Russia, the site may hold particular significance, since the accident there 36 years ago led to social changes and new cooperation with the West that transformed the Soviet Union. Former Soviet President Mikhail Gorbachev later suggested that the Chernobyl disaster was perhaps the real cause of the collapse of the Soviet Union, more so than his liberalizing reforms. That nuclear information about Chernobyl was posted in the Washington Post today by William Brannigan, David L. Stern, and Claire Parker on February 24th at 3:56 p.m. Hopefully this gave you some information that you haven't heard, and I'm just trying to research, what the Russians feel, and I knew that certainly all the people could not be for this insane atrocity of action from Putin. So apparently they're not. And we need to pray for Russia. Russia was oppressed by the Iron Curtain. They could not get the Bibles in there for many, many years. They did not have access. And Simon Peter's brother Andrew is the patron saint of Russia. Andrew was the Christian apostle and younger brother of Simon Peter. He was renowned for bringing Christianity to Romania, Ukraine, and Russia, and is said to have been crucified on a saltire cross in Patron, Greece. Andrew is esteemed as an example of humility for the fact that he refused to be crucified on the same type of Christ as the Messiah or Christ because he was not worthy. Many countries venerate Andrew as their patron saint. And according to Christian sources, Andrew was born at Bethsaida in the Sea of Galilee and later lived at Capernaum, where he was likely exposed to Greek influences. Andrew and his elder brother Simon Peter were fishermen by trade, and they were the first apostles to be appointed by Jesus. Consequently, Andrew is often called Protokletos, on the first called in the Eastern Orthodox tradition, and is described as being one of the disciples more closely attached to Jesus. After the crucifixion and Pentecost, Andrew allegedly preached in Asia Minor and in Scythia along the Black Sea as far as the Volga and Kiev, Due to his travels in these lands, he subsequently became known as the patron saint of Romania and Russia. Additionally, it is held that Andrew founded the See of Byzantium in 38 CE, which he would later develop into the Patriarchate of Constantinople. Andrew is still its patron saint. He is the patron saint of several countries and cities, including Barbados, Romania, Russia, Scotland, Ukraine, Cersanza, Pianza, and Amalfi in Italy, Esquira in Portugal, Luga in Malta, in the Philippines, and Padras in Greece. He was also the patron saint of Prussia and of the Order of the Golden Fleece. They have a St. Andrew statue in Kiev, Ukraine. You see, Simon Peter's brother Andrew brought Christianity to both of those places. And we need to see the godly character of Jesus in these people, to stand up, to speak out, to fight the good fight, and to be warriors and soldiers of Christ in these horrible times. And the Bible says, "Put on the full armor of God that you may be able to stand in the evil day." And now is your time to stand up, to speak out, and not be silent. And we will pray for the Russian and Ukrainian people and all the surrounding countries in Europe. And we'll pray for the Queen of England. We'll pray for her health. We'll pray for Jesus to come and deliver us from the bondage of this earth and these wars. And that's all I have to say for now. But remember that Russia and Ukraine have the same patron saint, Andrew. So you need to follow Christ's example. The Lord sent his disciples to those regions to bring godliness to those nations. And what they don't need is to be dragged into a war that kills and maims people for no reason at all. But they need to spread the love and the arts and the beauty of all of the traditions of their country. You know, don't go down in history as a tyrant. God give you strength, Ukrainian people. Signing out for now. I'll talk to you soon.